Hi, let's do a quick quiz. Here's today's game's cover art, with a woman on it. Here are screenshots from its store page, showing you play as a woman. Here's the game's trailer, showing you play as a woman. Now, what would you reply to this question from Steam forums?
Is this game woke? For example, like in first game, are the hetero marriages depicted as abusive, while LGBTQ relationships as—
Yeah, I agree. Welcome to the video. Yes, Your Grace Snowfall is a direct continuation of Yes, Your Grace, with a focus on the Queen if you couldn't tell. First game came out, let me check, 6 years ago. It was a nice short game on a budget about a Slavic fantasy kingdom called Davern. You played as King Eric, desperately trying to keep your kingdom and your family together, while going through one of the worst years of your life. With your country first getting invaded by barbarians from neighboring Radovia, and later getting attacked by Atana, another neighboring kingdom that seems to act as a spawn point for the worst rulers of this world. The story ended with you heroically defending Royal Castle from the overwhelming forces of Atana and saving the day. Since Snowfall is a sequel, you might think you need to play the first game before starting Snowfall to understand the story. But you don't. When you start the game, you get a nice recap of the story so far. Plus, I also have a video about the first game. Link for it will be somewhere in the description. In brief, Yes, Your Grace 1 was great. The kingdom management part was pretty bare bones, but thanks to an engaging story and short playtime, it didn't overstay its welcome and left me wanting more. The story itself dared to explore something outside of your average AAA writing about dead wives and dysfunctional dads, which really tied everything together beautifully, making it a game beloved by many, me included. Despite that, the game received some criticism. After we filter out all the anti-woke troglodytes who can't handle a bunch of women characters daring to exist, we are left with 3 main critiques I organized into a neat list. Visuals, which, while certainly charming, were somewhat simplistic and lacked variety, which is not a bad thing. I deeply respect indie developers who know how to deliver a beautiful and coherent experience without wasting all their budget on visuals. Understanding that you need to also provide players with interesting gameplay or an engaging story, preferably both. But it's still something many reviewers pointed out. Gameplay, which had a solid foundation and just enough difficulty to keep you on your toes, but never developed beyond its initial mechanics shown in the tutorial. And the main point of contention, branching storytelling, or lack thereof. That one rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. To a point where they were comparing it to a Telltale game, where you are lied to about your choices affecting the story. Those people are straight up wrong and seemingly imagine some other game from an alternative dimension. I discussed it in my previous video, so I'm not going to repeat myself. But I do understand them, because right after you repel the barbarian invasion, you had your eldest daughter burned at the stake for being a witch. And not only that, but the only reason she was in a kingdom where they kill underage girls for blasphemy is because you sent her there. That story segment upset a lot of people, and rightfully so, it's not a nice experience. But if your immediate reaction to a story that makes you feel negative emotions is to leave a negative review, I wish you ill. But out of respect to the people who truly just didn't like the story, let's call the third critique story. Now let's see if the sequel managed to address those critiques. I think we can immediately check visuals off that list. They clearly got a bigger budget this time around. And art style clearly found its footing. The game looks even better than it did before. We start with the aforementioned recap of the story of the first game. The game starts a year after the final battle. During the following year of peace, you and the queen, Aurelia, had 2 kids. A son, whom I contractually obliged to name Ernest in my playthrough, and a daughter, who will be entirely irrelevant to the plot, so just forget about her. After you fill out a questionnaire about all the important decisions you made in the first game, you get into the game proper. Snowfall, just like the first game, focuses its story and gameplay on 2 things: your kingdom and your family. And, just like the first game, the story starts with an external threat looming over your kingdom. This time around, you are visited by an old friend of yours, Jakub, a lord who was attacked by another lord loyal to the kingdom of Atana named Kafka. And Jakub is clearly losing. Your kingdom will be attacked next if you don't help your old friend to stop Kafka. As a sign of immense trust he has in you, Jakub even brought his son to your castle for protection until the war is over. So you, naturally, agree to help him sort this problem out before Kafka becomes your problem. Together, you devise a masterful battle plan. Jakob's forces will bait the enemy into a trap your army will prepare in advance. After which, you will crush Kafka against the mighty walls of your castle, with nowhere to run. A great plan, with only a minor issue you might want to look into. Your wall has a giant hole in it since the last war. You now need to fix it on a very short notice, prepare the trap for Kafka, and make sure your forces are ready to fight. Oh, and while you are doing all that, you need to get rid of a well-organized group of bandits roaming your kingdom. You also need to get rid of wild lions hunting your peasants in the woods. Plus your treasury is low on gold, and there's already a queue of petitioners who need your help with their own problems. Welcome to Yes Your Grace, where trouble never comes alone. The royal family is having their own problems as well. Besides very common issues that come with having 4 kids, a unique one for your family is that your infant son has a tail. You and Aurelia managed to keep it a secret for now. Since your main enemy is a country that killed your oldest daughter for being a witch, you can see why keeping it a secret is a good idea, unless you want to become the reason why Holy Inquisition was invented in this world. Since you can't just abandon your royal duties and start looking for a doctor or a witch that can cure your son's ailment, Aurelia is trying to sort it out herself. Her being involved like that is an early sign that she will be getting more screen time and involvement with the story this time around. Which is something I absolutely love about Snowfall. Aurelia isn't just a prop that exists with the sole mission of dying in the first 30 minutes of the game, like in AAA stories. She's an active participant in your life. She takes care of 2 infants, looks for a doctor capable of surgically removing the tail from your son, supports you emotionally, and, later on, will rule the kingdom itself while you are resting. Aurelia is a great wife and a mother, and I'm glad the game explores her character in depth. Yes Your Grace, to me, was always a game about family. So experiencing it through the eyes of Aurelia, instead of being stuck with Eric for its entirety, is a great choice in my opinion. Everyone in the family experiences the world differently, so it's only fair that we get to play from a different perspective this time around. But unless you fix that wall before Kafka reaches the castle, the only perspective you will get is a POV of your entire family getting kebab treatment. So let's figure out how to run your kingdom. Just like in the first game, you will be meeting petitioners every week, listening to their problems and deciding whether or not you want to help them. Problems will come in all shapes and sizes, from someone's pig getting ill and needing treatment to an entire village catching on fire. Meeting petitioners serves as a core mechanic around which the rest of the game is built. For each petitioner, you get a gauge you need to fill up with agents and resources relevant to the issue at hand. It starts out simple. You just pick the most relevant agent out of 2 and throw in some basic items where needed. Maybe if you're feeling charitable, you can aim for a better result or try landing on a bonus segment for extra reward. But later on that mechanic grows in complexity, so you don't get bored with how simple it is, like in the first game. You get more event types and a hefty pool of items and agents to choose from. Success meter gets further expanded with new effects, like fire and poison, both of which spread with each, I don't know what to call it, turn I guess? Every time you add an agent or an item, effects spread and damage them, forcing you to waste healing items on your agents. You also get vines that hinder your agents along the way, and a snow effect, lowering your overall effectiveness. So you have a lot of different effects you need to circumvent if you want to succeed in helping your fellow countrymen. It might look overwhelming at a first glance, because you have a lot of items and agents to choose from. But don't worry, when you get to those more complex mechanics, you will unlock the rumors screen, which gives you a heads up on what to expect. Each group of petitioners, and well, the entirety of the game, is divided into weeks. Every week you help petitioners and increase the overall prosperity of the kingdom, which you use to gather taxes or supplies from your realm. Or to improve happiness, because it's a fantasy land where you as a king care about your subjects, and they are capable of organizing a rebellion against you. Peasants overthrowing a useless dictator is a subtle clue that the game is set in a fantasy world and not in any modern-day feudal kingdoms. When you help enough petitioners and improve overall quality of life in your kingdom, you get to enact new laws. This is another clue that it's a fantasy world, because most laws are focused on helping people, an activity most of real-world countries seem to passionately hate. Upon investigating the castle wall, you find out that it, unsurprisingly, still has a giant hole in it. In order to fix it, you will need, shocker, stone. But since bandits are roaming your kingdom uncontested, Stone Dash and Uber Stones stopped operating in your region. So you need to first get rid of those scams before you get your stone delivery. This is where a brand new mechanic comes into play. You now have a map of your kingdom and a list of locations your royal agents can visit, as well as an entirely new resource to use for it – supplies I mentioned earlier. Some locations need only supplies to visit them, and others need extra resources and agents to get through. It's another mechanic that helps you immerse yourself in the role of a king. It felt pretty silly in the first game when every peasant had to embark on a journey towards your castle to complain about their problems. So now you actually send agents out to visit villages, help people in need, explore locations and fight bandits. During those ventures outside of your mighty, impenetrable keep, it becomes clear that bandits are well organized and all belong to the same group named Swans, all of whom are uncharacteristically cordial and way too polite for a gang of bandits. Somewhere after it becomes clear you are dealing with a well-organized gang, a new petitioner walks into your throne room and proposes a rather radical approach to the problem. This is how you meet your new agent Oleg. Welcome to the team. Agents also got an improvement over the first game, in which they had almost no character development or screen time beyond being deployed to help petitioners. Now they are an extremely vibrant bunch with their own wants and needs, which you can learn more about if you do their side quests. And if you play your cards right, you will improve their lives and, as a result, make them more effective. Like helping Oleg overcome his hate of witches, which is very handy since you employ a witch in your court. With Oleg's help in getting rid of the swans and with a steady supply of limestone coming in, it shouldn't be a problem to fix the wall and prepare the trap for Kafka's forces. Nothing can go wrong, so the rest of the game should be a smooth sailing.
What?
Okay, I guess it might be harder than expected. The wall blowing up, again, represents the end of the tutorial and the start of the actual game. To properly indicate how bad things really are, Eric pays homage to Tony Soprano and loses consciousness, as he always does across the game series. After a short recovery, you get rid of all bandit outposts, prepare your trap and get ready to meet Kafka in full force with enough time to finish wall reconstruction. With only a minor issue. Wall explosion conveniently killed your foreman. Being very short on time before Kafka's return, you decided to skip all 5 interview rounds over Zoom and hired this guy without doing any background checks. He claims to be a master builder, but more importantly, he's overly cordial with you, incredibly polite and dresses way too nicely for a commoner. Those traits don't set off any alarms in Eric's head. Luckily for the new master builder, his new employer is as dumb as rocks he needs to finish castle walls. So, mere days before your enemy reaches the keep, the new builder plays his hand and reveals, who would have thought, that he's actually one of the swans. They capture your forces that were preparing the trap and bait you into leaving the castle to negotiate their release. Winning time so the rest of the gang can easily take over the castle while you aren't there. The wall you built and the trap you prepared become your own demise. You rush back to the castle, but in the heat of battle get mortally wounded by Timo. This guy, the son of Lord Jakob, whom he left with you for daycare. The kid was trying to 360 no-scope enemy forces, but shot you instead. Honestly, no wonder Jakob dropped him off at your place. Just imagine what this crackshot would do in an actual fight against Kafka. Now that the battle for the castle is clearly lost, unconscious Eric is carried far away from it to a safe location, where, after a short chapter showing Eric trying to hour a farm by ignoring his wound, the game changes perspective from King Eric to Queen Aurelia, because Eric loses consciousness again, but this time goes into a full-blown coma. I really like the opening chapters, because the game is clearly much more dynamic this time around. A lot of events are set in motion in those initial chapters, and the game departs from its original formula of sitting in the castle and waiting for events to happen. It's a great decision story-wise. From now on, you are constantly on edge and wondering how your family and the kingdom could possibly recover from such a terrible blow. Changing perspective to Aurelia is also a welcome change. It's heavily spoiled by everything surrounding the game's marketing, but it's still a daring thing to do, forcing you to see the perspective of such troubling times for a family through the eyes of a woman. Shame that we are in the year 2026 and games where you play as a woman character are still incredibly rare and can be described as daring. Oh well, it is what it is. Aurelia's perspective of running the kingdom instead of King Eric is fascinating, especially so because Eric will spend the rest of the game tripping balls in his fever dreams, which makes it a learn-as-you-go experience for the queen that never ruled a country before, let alone one without a castle or big enough military to take it back. Now that you're playing as a queen, you get to experience all the great things about medieval society when it comes to women, such as rampant sexism. That's it. Because of it, even though you are a royalty, many people will treat you as lesser than Eric based solely on the fact that you do not have a penis swinging between your legs. Something women struggle with to this day. The theme of Aurelia trying to fill in for Eric while facing an uphill battle in proving that she, as a woman, can do it just as well if not better, will be present throughout the rest of the game. Sometimes it will explore the nice, endearing side of things, like inspiring other women around you. But oftentimes it will be just a constant barrage of sexism. Even your own subjects will question your ability to handle their problems. Something Eric never had to deal with. And Kingdom of Atana is a whole different story. As Aurelia, you will meet Lord Marcel, another loyalist from there, and he will give you a wholesale package of sexism. From never treating you as his equal to outright demanding that you make your underage daughter sleep with him. So a fat, sexist pedophile. Shame there is no YouTube in Yes Your Grace. Marcel could be one of the top earners on the platform. What I really like about this particular topic is how unapologetic the story is about juxtaposing your experience compared to Eric's. No one in the right mind would ever consider posing such a question to him. And the way some people talk to you would probably get them thrown in jail immediately if they talk to Eric that way. I respect developers having the guts to explore those issues. It's a big step up compared to the first game, where Aurelia was mostly busy with her pregnancy and kids and wasn't as involved with the story as she is now. And it's an interesting look into just how much she was doing behind the scenes with 3 daughters and a pregnancy. Because now you don't have a housewife, or I guess a house husband in this particular case, to help you. Because of that, the amount of time you will have to spend with kids is significantly higher. Almost every week they are either up to no good or need emotional support. And that's on top of you trying to run a kingdom and figure out a battle plan to get your castle back. My favorite character is Timo, because he helps explore how you would feel in the circumstances Aurelia ends up in. He 100% shot your husband with a bow, but he's a child. He just wanted to help but chose the worst time and the worst way to do so. Because of that mistake, he's now stuck in a foreign country without a father, who could be dead for all he knows. And you are stuck with him, a kid who caused you a lot of trouble but ultimately didn't mean to. And you have full freedom to talk to that kid, desperately looking for forgiveness and a sense of belonging, how you want. In almost every dialogue you have an option to get angry and reprimand whoever is talking to you, adult or kid. With Timo being the most regular target for your anger and hatred, which is understandable if rather unfair to the kid. Aurelia is under constant stress, which results in those dialogue options where she's just beyond caring about other people's feelings. She got so much on her plate that being a nice person is something she can drop for the time being, if you choose to roleplay her that way. You can also play her as a loving and understanding woman taking care of Timo and letting him know it's not his fault. But those angry thoughts are always in the back of her mind. She didn't ask for all that. She should be taking care of 2 toddlers. Instead, she's thrown into ruling a whole kingdom without her husband's support. And I personally love it. That look at running things alone is amazing and very enjoyable. I really like that part of the game. Character growth that Aurelia goes through is genuinely well written and lets her shine. During the story, she goes from a hesitant and scared woman who has no plans beyond waiting for her husband to wake up, to becoming a fierce ruler and a fighter, ready to do anything it takes to protect her family and her kingdom, which is genuinely a great character arc. Now that you got out of the castle, you need to restore your army, rally the people of your kingdom against Kafka, and, hopefully, cure your husband of big EP disease. Since you found an abandoned keep, it will become your base of operations for the foreseeable future. Petitioners will now come here instead of the castle to ask for help. and them coming to your new base of operations marks a marginal decline in my enjoyment of the game's main story. As much as I hate to utter those words, the game and the rest of the story after those initial chapters suffer from ludonarrative dissonance, and well, just basic narrative dissonance. You are supposedly in hiding from the Lord Kafka, who now has full control of your castle since he made a deal with the Swans gang. But, because it's a game about running a kingdom with the main gameplay mechanic revolving around petitioners, you still need to have them come to you so there is a game for you to play. So now every petitioner in the kingdom just magically knows where to come to complain about their problems. Here, to an abandoned keep no one lives in. The very first petitioner even declares that he came here specifically to see a queen sitting on a throne instead of a king. Just how? From the story perspective you are in hiding and regaining your strength, but there is a queue of people waiting for you to help, for king and queen to help. The story reason given is that rumors are spreading fast or something like that, but I guess Lord Kafka isn't invited to the group chat where your geolocation was shared, because he will remain pretty much the only person in Davern who didn't visit you. Peasants, royals, visitors from another country, hell, even a dog will visit this keep. But not Kafka, that loser is not invited to the party. And I just don't understand how it's supposed to work. He could come and kill you here and now and save himself a world of trouble that will rain on him later in the story. But he doesn't. It would be plausible mistake from him if it weren't for the swats of petitioners coming to your keep on foot. So surely you aren't that far away that he can send a small squad to finish you off. It's a clear case where the gameplay gets in the way of the story being told. You are in hiding, but everyone pretty much knows where you are. Which is exactly what ludonarrative dissonance is. Gameplay not working in tandem with the story being told. For extracurricular research, you can check out pretty much any AAA game that ever came out, where an ordinary person just kills entire cities worth of people without ever addressing it. The other glaring problem for me is narrative dissonance, but for that I will need to talk about story spoilers. So for now, let's just say I liked Aurelia's character arc, found some stories to be great in isolation, but ultimately was unsatisfied with the main story and how it was resolved. The game's writing, while having a lot of great side stories, somehow utterly fails to deliver on that sense of danger and urgency that was set up in the opening chapters, while simultaneously providing you with a lot of stories that have absolutely nothing to do with it. To avoid story spoilers, skip to here. Man, I hope you're ready for what a train wreck that is. Before we get into the main story, let's discuss, in brief, some of the side quests, so you can understand why I'm so displeased about side stories having nothing to do with the main story. Agent missions will be a great example. There's a bunch of them, and they all don't really fit into the bigger narrative, but let's focus on the most emblematic one in my opinion. Alona, your court witch. At some point, if you're nice to her, she will mention, in the middle of a war, that she always wanted to learn singing. And if you want to help her, you can give her some money to apply for the Arts Institute or whatever it's called. The very same money that you need to pay your agent salaries and to buy resources. You will fill out an application form together, figure out how she can overcome her stage fright, and she will leave for a week or two to audition for the institute. She will eventually receive a rejection letter, but now that she has tried to pursue her dream and venture outside of her comfort zone, she will become a more efficient agent. That's a nice little story. But, due to the events happening in the main plot, that story feels like a satire on how a lot of RPGs handle companion quests. The stakes are incredibly high. Your castle is lost, Eric is in a coma, you have no army, and a rival lord is looking for you so he can kill the rest of your family. But you are sending your agents on their personal quests, wasting time and resources you desperately need to survive. Besides Alona's quest, you will also have time to untangle a love triangle, help your gay agent meet his parents who sent him to a monastery, help a grieving husband get closure, help the same grieving husband open a trinket shop, engage in gambling, adopt a dog. Okay, that one I forgive. Help another husband visit the grave of his long-dead wife, located deep in the enemy territory. A bunch of other quests I forgot about. You can skip those quests, but you are losing out on improving your agents or sometimes even recruiting new ones. And because it's a game built around using agents to solve problems, you will be making the game harder for yourself if you decide to skip them. Which is a shame. The stories themselves are great, I enjoyed most of them. But when you start your story with 2 chapters establishing that we are about to die, main narrative loses a lot of its impact when half the game is spent doing what amounts to a free therapy session for a royal agent. As they exist now, those stories actively detract from the main theme of a kingdom going through dark times and its queen trying to navigate her new role. Now, let's get through the main quest while keeping in mind that stories like Alona goes to music school are what's going on in the background of the main story. After you get to the keep, your entire plan, after you accept that Eric is not going to join the party, boils down to restoring your strengths and preparing to attack Kafka. Since he's preoccupied with establishing a trade route between his realm and Atana, you will hit him where it hurts, at the construction site for the final stretch of the road leading into Atana. Which is a great strategy overall. You have very limited forces and can't attack Kafka head-on. Resorting to partisan tactics of forcing him to waste men and resources on hunting you down is a perfect starting point in a long campaign of reclaiming your kingdom. Luckily for us, the new residential palace, location of which absolutely everyone in the realm seems to know, is surrounded by plot armor. Unluckily for Lord Kafka, because of that, he can't just ride to your location and kill your little rebellion before it becomes a real problem. That would be disrespectful to you as the main character. At some point, he even learns your exact location and proceeds to do fuck all with that information, courteously letting you prepare to attack his forces without any interference. So you attack the construction site and have a nice little fight where you are shown how much Aurelia has grown as a ruler. You now command entire squads of soldiers, deciding which battlefronts need more help and even push back against enemy reinforcements that you didn't plan for. It's a great section overall, but it rings a little hollow. Because instead of fighting your way to this point, you were given space to grow by Kafka, who decided not to kill you when you were in a much weaker position. While Aurelia's character growth is a satisfying story overall, the build up to this moment could have been better. Oh well, it is what it is. After the battle, you come back to the keep and find out that it was looted by robbers. No, not Kafka's agents, not assassins from Atana, not even enemy soldiers that decided to attack your residence while you were busy fighting at the construction site. It's just some random, nondescript looters. Since you, a now established general, decided to leave one, I repeat, one singular guard to protect your family, those random looters stole, and I swear to God it's not a joke, your infant son. They didn't take anything else, not the golden crown, not any of the king's things, nothing. They saw a kid with a tail and said Kafka would buy it. Why the fuck Kafka would buy a kid with a tail is open to interpretation. That plot twist is as silly as it sounds. It's one of the weakest pieces of writing I encountered in a long while. It exists seemingly with the sole purpose of forcing you to leave the keep so the rest of the plot can happen. But it's done in an incredibly sloppy way, where looters somehow have no idea who currently occupies the keep, don't know what the local king looks like, don't register the family crest on the guard they knocked out, ignore the group of kids fitting the description of a royal family, but somehow they know who Lord Kafka is and that he will pay for an infant with a tail. So, to save your son, you decide to... Let me check my notes real quick. Right. Abandon the keep and go to Grevna on foot with the entirety of your remaining forces to attack the castle and steal your son back. You don't even send scouts ahead to check if Kafka finished fixing the wall, which would be an incredibly logical thing to do after capturing the castle and holding it for 6 months. But don't you worry, he didn't do anything about the wall. He has time and resources to build a road, but no time to use the stone you already delivered to the castle to fix the walls. It's not like there's a royal family on the loose trying to kill him. Oh, and you take the kids with you as well, because how else would you save your son if not by risking the lives of 3 other kids in the process? And what do we do with King Eric, mortally wounded guy in a constant comatose state? Just throw him in a fucking cart and take him with you to the siege as well. Who cares? Let's just put your entire family in danger. It's not like Aurelia always cared about all of her kids and wanted to keep them safe. Let's just force her to put all the eggs into one basket that she takes on a suicide mission. That will make it more exciting. Look, I really like world building of Yes Your Grace, and I have immense amount of goodwill for the game. But after the high point of attacking Kafka's forces on that construction site, the rest of the story rapidly degrades into a chain of nonsensical events and idiotic decisions that make no sense. Aurelia becomes stupid, Lord Kafka becomes stupid, none of your royal agents even try suggesting a better plan, and the royal advisor just gives you a pep talk about how far you've come. It's insane. After a fun road trip during which no one even attempts to intercept you, you get to Grevno. Your plan is already in danger because Kafka summoned Lord Marcel to help him hold the castle. An activity that would be infinitely easier if they fixed the damn wall. You didn't account for extra forces defending the keep, but, military genius that you are, brush it off with "we've come too far to stop now." No one noticed your forces approaching and no one patrols the hill overlooking the castle. So you set up camp, get an emotional scene about how great everyone is and how far we all have come on this grand adventure, and after a short rest, you begin the siege. Which goes smoothly right until you find your son. While you were saving Ernest, your forces outside were utterly crushed by Lord Marcel and his men. Who would have thought that attacking overwhelming enemy forces would fail? In the very next scene, Lord Marcel stabs you with a knife and leaves. He doesn't take you captive to the kingdom of Atana, doesn't make sure to kill the rest of your agents, doesn't raid your camp, doesn't even wonder where King Eric at. He stabs you one time, takes your son, and leaves. That scene would at least make for an interesting cliffhanger to end the game on, building up a nice amount of tension for the next game, leaving you wondering what's going to happen to the kingdom now. Is Aurelia dead, or maybe she can still be saved? Will Eric, who didn't do shit for the entirety of the game, ever wake up? What's going to happen to the kids and the rest of the royal agents? Well, don't you worry, this is not where the game ends in the true ending. If you did a side quest to prepare a magic remedy, and made sure to be nice with folklore creatures tormenting Eric in his dreams, you get to see extra scenes! How exciting! I hope it's not about some man waking up and saving his wife. That would make the entirety of her character arc a little pointless, wouldn't it? True ending is an ending where King Eric, who has been bedridden for half a year, magically wakes up and saves his wife. Without even putting any armor on, he grabs a sword and rushes into the battlefield. What a hero! Good thing he didn't lose any strength while being mortally wounded and bedridden for 6 whole months. So now he can casually dispatch of 2 fully armored soldiers in just a few swings. And find his wife, Aurelia. She had no armor in previous scene, but now she's fully armored. Don't worry about it. Will Eric wait to make sure his wife is okay? Of course not, you silly boy, girl or non-binary person. He will rush alone into the woods to chase Lord Marcel and save his son. Because a man who just woke up from coma is surely a fast sprinter. When Eric catches up to him, Marcel, a guy who just stabbed a captured woman and stole her son, agrees to a duel of honor with Eric. Eric, despite losing his sword, still wins and heroically saves his son. Those soldiers in the back, especially soldiers from Atana, kingdom of your sworn enemies, yeah, they respect the result of the duel and just go home. King Eric, now that his son is safe, remembers that actually he didn't move a single muscle for half a year and loses consciousness again. And we are treated to 2 great final scenes. First one is Aurelia, a queen who just saw her beloved husband run into the woods alone, sitting on the throne and giving a speech about how they will rebuild the kingdom. She doesn't send any agents to help her husband. It's not like she has multiple capable fighters who might help a man she supposedly loves. I guess giving a speech in front of everybody is more important right now to a woman that cared deeply about her family throughout the entirety of the game. Oh well. And after we check out the end slides, we get a second mega secret final scene where, in a dream sequence or perhaps afterlife, we don't know for sure, Eric hears his dead daughter call for him and the game ends. This ending is the lowest point not only in this game, but all of Yes Your Grace games. As much as I loved Aurelia's growth as a character, it was entirely undone by the true ending. She, once again, is a weak woman who needs a strong man to save her. And that ending is absolutely undeserved. The story is resolved by Eric going Super Saiyan and effortlessly saving pretty much everybody. Much to my infinite disappointment. Snowfall starts very strong with an incredible premise for its story, but somewhere along the way it all falls apart so miserably that it hurts to watch a great story unfold into so many plot holes. I don't understand why it happened despite having such an amazing setup. Every character is routinely stupid, everyone is making dumb decisions, plot armor becomes the basis of the entire story, and even cutscenes have insulting mistakes like mixing up which character models to use. There are many nice little stories in here, but when you experience all of them together, the game falls apart and makes it clear that some of the side stories had more care put into them than the finale of the game. I don't think I will ever get a concrete answer as to what went so terribly wrong during production, but because I followed the development since the initial announcement, I have a theory. It looks like, at some point, seemingly very close to the release, major rewrites of the story took place. It's hinted at by how drastically the tone of the game's marketing and key art changed between the initial announcement, which felt like a game about Aurelia and Eric fighting to save the kingdom together, and the final release which focused entirely on Aurelia. and many scenes in the game were changed from featuring Eric to featuring Aurelia, while others were entirely removed. Plus, the quest journal, at times, recounts events of an entirely different story altogether. That plot twist where your son was taken by random looters, here's how your royal advisor recounts it in the very next scene. Why only take the prince? Why not kill the king? Whoever came in here, I don't think they even knew where they were or who was lying in bed. Now, let's check what's written in the game's journal in regards to those events. Kafka's men plundered our keep and kidnapped the Prince of Davern. How the fuck are they simultaneously random looters and Kafka's men? I believe that this is a journal entry from before the main story was hastily rewritten. But we will never know for sure. What we do know is that Snowfall's story clearly needed more time in the oven to come together, which it didn't have, and we got what we got. A story with an amazing premise that fails to deliver anything of substance. Welcome back everyone who skipped story spoilers. You didn't miss much. Yes, Your Grace Snowfall is an interesting game with an enjoyable gameplay, a daring exploration of Aurelia's character, and beautiful art direction. But the amount of major mistakes in writing and inability to deliver an engaging and, more importantly, believable story will be the end of the series for me if the team doesn't pull it together and actually deliver a good finale for what seems to be shaping out to be the last installment in the series. They already have an amazing art direction, great mechanics and genuinely interesting setting. All they need to do now is to keep the scope manageable and finish the story with a bang. I would recommend that you play the game yourself, but let's be real here. While I enjoyed the gameplay, I hated the story, and recommending you buy the game would be a lie on my part. If you can enjoy stories that feel good but don't make much sense overall, buy it. But if you, like me, can get butthurt when characters act in increasingly stupid ways, maybe skip that one or wait for the sale. Nevertheless, I wish the team at Brave at Night good luck and eagerly await their next game. And if you made it all the way to the end of the video, consider subscribing, it will help me survive getting shot with an arrow. That's it for the video, bye! Special thank you to Lossipai, Ernest Gaskin, XPLR Films, KOP, and Shining Finger. Honestly, this is way more names than I thought I would ever read for this channel. Thank you again for supporting me. And thank you, the viewer, for finishing this video.
Counting or not counting gang violence? Great!